Deep in a remote jungle, buried beneath decades of thick overgrowth, lies a forgotten airplane that has remained untouched for 50 years. Locals tell tales of its mysterious crash, claiming the jungle swallowed it whole and guarded its secrets from the outside world. When a team of explorers enters the dense forest, they expect to find a relic. But what they uncover is far more astonishing than anyone could imagine. Every corner of the wreck tells a story frozen in time, preserved by the jungle itself, waiting for those brave enough to witness it. The secrets inside this abandoned airplane, and the jungle that has protected them for half a century, will leave you completely speechless. Hello, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure to join our YouTube family by subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to like this video, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, and what time it is in your city. Now, let's get into the story. Deep in the heart of a dense, unexplored jungle, hidden behind layers of thick foliage and towering trees, lay the wreckage of an old airplane that had been abandoned for over 50 years. The plane's metal was rusted, the paint peeling, and the wings had collapsed under the weight of decades and nature's relentless reclamation. Vines wrapped around the fuselage like living chains, and moss covered almost every surface, giving the aircraft an eerie, almost mythical presence. Local villagers had long whispered stories about the plane, claiming that it was cursed or that strange things happened around it. For generations, the jungle had swallowed the plane, hiding it from the outside world, and turning it into a relic of history that few dared to approach. Alex, a young and ambitious explorer, had heard about the legendary airplane from a retired pilot who claimed to have seen it once during his early flights in the region. The story fascinated him. An aircraft left untouched for half a century, swallowed by the jungle, yet somehow preserved by time. Alex immediately decided that he needed to see it for himself. He gathered a small team of specialists, a documentary filmmaker named Brian, who had traveled the world capturing unexplained phenomena, a survival expert named Mark with decades of experience navigating treacherous jungles, and a local guide named Raphael who knew the jungle trails better than anyone else. Together, they formed a team capable of exploring this hidden, mysterious wreck safely while documenting every detail. Weeks of preparation went into the expedition. They studied maps, reviewed satellite images, packed cameras, drones, climbing gear, survival kits, and equipment for recording data about the environment. Each member had a role. Alex would lead the exploration and investigation. Brian would record footage for the documentary. Mark would ensure their safety and guide navigation. And Raphael would provide insight into local legends and warnings. The excitement among them was palpable, but so was a cautious respect for the jungle's dangerous reputation. When they finally arrived at the outskirts of the dense forest, the jungle seemed almost alive. The trees towered impossibly high, their thick canopies blocking most of the sunlight, creating shadows that danced across the forest floor. The air was heavy with humidity, and the sounds of wildlife, birds, insects, and distant roars echoed in ways that made the explorers feel small and vulnerable. Each step into the jungle made them realize the magnitude of what they were about to discover. Every crack of a branch, every rustle in the leaves, reminded them that this was uncharted territory, where danger could come from any direction. After hours of trekking through dense vegetation, thick vines, and roots that threatened to trip them at every step, they finally saw it. The silhouette of the airplane emerging through the greenery. The sheer size of it was breathtaking. Half buried in the earth, the aircraft's wings were draped with vines and small plants. Birds flitted around openings in the fuselage, and small animals had made the wreck their home. The team approached cautiously, the soft crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound besides the distant calls of the jungle. Alex was the first to reach the plane. He ran his hands across the rusted metal, marveling at how the aircraft had endured the passage of decades. "It's incredible," he whispered. 50 years, and it's still here, almost like it's waiting for us." Brian immediately started setting up cameras, capturing every angle, every detail of the wreckage. The jungle had turned the plane into a surreal monument, part history, part natural reclamation. Every vine, moss-covered surface, and bent metal beam told a story of time, decay, and resilience. Inside the cabin, the team discovered remnants of its past. Seats, control panels, and faded papers lay scattered, some protected under layers of leaves and soil. The cockpit, though heavily corroded, still held the remains of instruments that had once guided the plane through the skies. Raphael pointed out signs of small animals nesting inside, while Mark carefully checked for structural weaknesses to prevent anyone from being injured. Each corner of the plane seemed to tell its own story, a story of sudden disappearance, of human absence, and of nature's silent dominance. As they explored further, Brian captured shots of engraved initials on the seats, faded flight manuals, and personal belongings left behind by the passengers and crew. These artifacts, though mundane at first glance, provided a chilling sense of the human lives once intertwined with the airplane. The team speculated about the crash, perhaps a storm, perhaps mechanical failure, or simply a navigational error. But the more they studied it, the more questions arose. How had the plane survived so long without being fully consumed by the jungle? Why had no one recovered it for 50 years? Hours passed as they documented every inch of the plane. The jungle itself seemed to shift as they moved deeper, as if observing the intruders. Strange sounds echoed, distant and unidentifiable. Shadows played tricks on their eyes, and the sunlight filtering through the canopy created moving patterns that made the aircraft appear alive. Alex could feel the weight of history pressing down on him, a connection between the past and present, so tangible that it made the hairs on his arms stand. The team realized they were witnessing more than just a plane crash. They were uncovering a story frozen in time. The wreckage was a monument to human endeavor, tragedy, and the unstoppable force of nature. The jungle had preserved it, concealed it, and now, for the first time in decades, humans had returned to witness it. Every creak of the rusted metal, every bird taking flight, and every beam of light through the canopy became part of the story they were about. To tell a story 50 years in the making, a story that the jungle had patiently waited to reveal. After spending hours documenting the exterior and interior of the 50-year-old airplane, Alex and his team began to explore the surrounding jungle more carefully. The plain, while impressive on its own, seemed only a part of a much larger story. Mark, the survival expert, cautioned everyone to stay alert, as the jungle could be as dangerous as it was mysterious. Every crack of a branch, every rustle in the thick foliage, reminded them that this environment was alive and unpredictable. Inside the fuselage, the remnants of the past continued to reveal themselves. Old luggage, half buried in soil, contained rotting clothing and faded letters, providing glimpses into the lives of the passengers who had once boarded the aircraft. Some of the papers were fragile, their ink smudged or faded, but the team carefully photographed everything, preserving details before nature erased them completely. The cockpit revealed partially functional instruments. Though many were corroded beyond repair, Alex studied the controls, imagining the plane in motion, flying above the very forest that now swallowed it. Brian, the filmmaker, focused on capturing the juxtaposition of man-made technology and the jungle's reclamation. Vines snaked through the windows, moss-covered panels, and small creatures darted across seats and floor panels. The contrast of rusted metal against the vibrant greens of the jungle created an almost surreal atmosphere. Each frame he captured told a story of survival and decay, illustrating the unstoppable force of nature and the fragility of human endeavors. As the team ventured outside the plane to survey the surrounding area, they stumbled upon scattered remnants that suggested the crash site. Extended beyond the visible wreckage, pieces of metal, shards of glass, and torn fabrics were scattered across a clearing, partially concealed by years of overgrowth. Raphael, the local guide, examined the terrain closely. "This area is bigger than it seems," he said. "The jungle has hidden much of the crash under layers of plants and soil. What we see is only the surface." While exploring, Alex discovered a partially buried map near the plane's wing. The paper was yellowed and brittle, but the markings on it were clear. The map depicted unusual symbols and locations deep within the jungle, possibly indicating hidden landmarks, rivers, or even forgotten settlements. The discovery electrified the team. They realized that the plane's story might be connected to secrets long forgotten by history. Each symbol hinted at mysteries waiting to be uncovered, turning their expedition from a simple documentation of the wreck into a potential treasure hunt. As they followed the map, the jungle seemed to respond to their presence. Sounds intensified. Distant calls of animals echoed through the dense canopy, and the rustling of leaves became more pronounced. The team moved cautiously, maintaining tight formation. Mark constantly scanned for dangerous wildlife, while Raphael interpreted symbols and landmarks. The jungle, once seemingly passive, now appeared alive, as if testing the determination of those who dared to explore it. Deeper into the forest, the explorers found remnants of other structures, crumbling walls, rusted machinery, and fragmented tools. It was clear that the plane's story was only a part of a larger narrative, one that included human activity in the jungle decades ago. Liam, the team's research assistant, speculated about a forgotten settlement or an expedition that had previously attempted to navigate the forest. Every discovery added layers to the story, illustrating how the jungle had quietly witnessed decades of human history, silently preserving fragments of the past. The eerie calm of the jungle was suddenly broken by the sound of movement nearby. Leaves rustled violently, and shadows shifted in ways that suggested an animal. Though nothing was immediately visible, the explorers paused, scanning the trees and undergrowth. Mark raised his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Stay alert. The jungle is full of predators, and the plane's presence may have disturbed them. Despite the tension, the team pressed on. They documented every observation, taking notes, photographs, and video recordings. Brian captured sweeping shots of the jungle around the plane, emphasizing the scale and the way nature had completely overtaken the wreckage. The images told a story of time, decay, and resilience, showing how human artifacts could become part of a living ecosystem over decades. As evening approached, the forest took on a different character. The sunlight filtering through the canopy created dappled patterns on the forest floor, highlighting the vibrant greens of mosses and ferns that had grown around the plane. The team felt both awe and a subtle fear. The jungle was beautiful, but it had remained untouched for so long that it felt like a force of nature, beyond human comprehension. Alex realized that this expedition was not just about the airplane. It was about understanding how time, nature, and human history intersected in ways few people could imagine. By the time they returned to the plane for the night, the team had collected hours of footage and numerous artifacts, each telling a fragment of the story. The jungle had revealed part of its mystery, but it also made clear that more secrets were waiting to be discovered. The 50-year-old airplane was not just a relic. It was a key to understanding, a history preserved by the relentless power of the forest, a story that would continue to unfold as long as explorers dared to venture into its depths. The following morning, the team awoke near the 50-year-old airplane, energized by the discoveries of the previous day, but aware that the jungle still held secrets far beyond what they had uncovered. Sunlight streamed evenly through the thick canopy, illuminating the wreck and the surrounding forest in bright, natural colors. The rusted fuselage glimmered slightly under the sunlight, and the vines and moss covering it seemed almost alive. Every explorer was aware that they were witnessing a story decades in the making, a story of human ambition, tragedy, and the unyielding power of nature reclaiming what was once created. Alex gathered the team for a briefing. Today, we follow the map we found in the cockpit. It might lead us to other remnants connected to the crash, or even hidden structures the jungle has swallowed over the years. Brian readied his cameras. Mark checked their navigation equipment, and Raphael adjusted his pack, scanning the forest for familiar landmarks. Together, they moved cautiously, understanding that this part of the jungle had remained untouched for decades, and every step could bring them closer to history or danger. As they ventured deeper, the jungle opened into a small clearing, revealing fragments of metal and broken wooden crates, half buried in the soil. It was apparent that the crash site extended beyond the visible airplane, possibly including supplies or equipment that had been lost during the accident. Zian carefully photographed and documented every piece, noting dates, materials, and conditions. It became increasingly clear that the plane was only one piece of a much larger puzzle, a snapshot frozen in time, now slowly revealed by explorers daring enough to enter its domain. The deeper they went, the denser the jungle became. Tall trees blocked sunlight, and shadows shifted constantly across the forest floor. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, unfamiliar and sometimes unsettling, creating a sense that the jungle was alive and observing them. At one point, a branch snapped nearby, sending the team into immediate alert. Mark signaled everyone to stay quiet and move carefully, emphasizing the need to respect the environment. Every sound, every movement felt amplified, making them keenly aware of both the beauty and the danger surrounding them. Suddenly, Alex spotted another landmark hinted at by the map, a stone structure partially hidden beneath vines and thick foliage. It appeared ancient, with carvings worn by decades of weather and growth. The explorers approached with a mixture of awe and caution, realizing that the jungle had preserved more than just the airplane. It had maintained a hidden record of human presence, possibly from previous explorers or local inhabitants who had ventured here long ago. The team documented every angle of the stone, photographing intricate patterns, carvings, and the surrounding terrain, understanding that each detail might hold a clue to the past. Inside the structure, they found remnants of tools, jars, and wooden crates, indicating that previous humans had attempted to utilize the area for shelter or survival. The artifacts were partially decomposed, yet still recognizable, giving the explorers insight into the challenges faced decades ago. Brian filmed meticulously, capturing the atmosphere, sunlight piercing through cracks in the foliage, illuminating dust particles in the air, and highlighting the textures of moss-covered stone and decayed wood. The cinematic visuals conveyed both the age and mystery of the site. While documenting the stone structure, Raphael noticed a narrow path leading further into the forest, overgrown but distinguishable. According to the map, this path connected to other hidden locations surrounding the crash site. This is probably the trail that past explorers or survivors used, he said. Alex decided to follow it carefully, understanding that the jungle had many layers of history yet to reveal. The team moved in pairs, staying alert to the terrain and any potential hazards. Every step brought new discoveries, broken wings, scattered tools, and hints of forgotten campsites. As they reached the end of the path, the jungle opened into a larger clearing. Here, sunlight flooded the area, revealing the scale of the forest and the wreckage intertwined with nature. The 50-year-old airplane appeared almost smaller from this perspective, surrounded by trees, vines, and wild vegetation that had grown over decades. The explorers paused to take it all in. The immense jungle, the preserved relics of the past, and the realization that they were the first humans in decades to witness this scene. After thoroughly documenting the area, Alex called the team together. We've seen the plane, the extended crash site, and the structures hidden by the jungle, he said. It's time to start heading back, but we leave with enough evidence to tell a story 50 years in the making. Each member nodded, aware of the responsibility of preserving and sharing the history they had uncovered. They retraced their steps carefully, ensuring they left no trace behind while carrying detailed records of the wreckage and artifacts. By the time the team emerged from the jungle, the sunlight was bright and even, revealing the forest's natural colors in all their vividness. They stood at the edge of the dense foliage, looking back at the 50-year-old airplane now partially hidden once again by the jungle's embrace. Exhausted but exhilarated, they realized that the story they had uncovered was more than just a plane. It was a testament to history, nature, and the persistence of human curiosity. The jungle had preserved its secrets for decades, and now, thanks to their courage, the past had finally been brought back into the light for the world to see.